I was given a news aggregator, and what it does, it takes news topics, and it takes them from the left, the right, the centre, and you've got a sliding scale. And what you can do is you can have it from a right-leaning perspective or a left-leaning perspective or a centrist perspective. So I'm going to use the centrist perspective because I don't like the way that they word shit to suit their means or whatever. But anyway, what we will do, actually, is we'll do a live stream about this. And we'll get a topic which you're all, say, for instance, I'll give you an example like the nursing strike, okay? And then we'll look at how the extreme left are wording it, how the extreme right are wording it, and then we'll come back in through and we'll see how the story changes to suit their perspective, their narrative, whatever. But that's another thing. Now, at the moment, a lot of people have said that TikTok is a negative input or influence on the kids. And I've actually thought this. And it's also how that TikTok decides it's going to promote stories. So say, for instance, if you go to China, it's going to talk about kids that are doing well in university, kids that are doing well in school, inventors that are doing stuff and things like that. And they'll push all of these stupid, narcissistic, degenerate videos to the back. However, when they hit Europe and America and places like that, it's a role in reversal. They want to try and paint the public of that country as a bunch of self-centered, narcissistic, fat, all the rest of it, just everything negative they want to post, right? And this story, by the way, I went for the middle of the road, okay, here. I didn't go for left or right. And it says, TikTok is pushing harmful content into teenagers' feeds, studies say. Should we be surprised? Probably not. A new study for the Center for Countering Digital Hate says it saw harmful content being recommended into the accounts within minutes of joining TikTok. The particular one they're talking about is self-harming and bulimia and stuff like this. So let me have a quick read through. Some young TikTok users are being shown potentially dangerous content which could, I should say, encourage eating disorders, self-harm, and suicide, an online safety group has claimed. That's not good, being as the kids literally live with their phone this far away from them, even when they're walking down the street. So they walk into lampposts or out in front of cars. Believe you me, they'll walk out in front of your truck, and you're like, God, and if you hit them, it's your fault, whatever. So it says research into TikTok algorithms by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, CCDH, found certain accounts were repeatedly being served content around eating disorders and other harmful topics in the minutes after joining the platform. The group created 2 accounts in each of the US and UK, Australia and Canada. What did I say? See? I haven't even read this yet. I'm reading this with you now. Posing as a 13-year-old, one account in each country was given a female name and the other was given a similar name, but with a reference to losing weight, including a username. The content served by both accounts in the first 30 minutes on TikTok were then compared. The CCDH said it used the username method as previous research has shown that some users with body dysmorphia issues will often express this through social media handles. Okay, that would make sense. In its report, its methodology, the CCDH also said accounts used in the study expressed a preference for videos about body image, mental health, and eating disorders by pausing on relevant videos and pressing the like button. Then the algorithm obviously does its work, as it does with any platform. In addition, the report does not distinguish between content with a positive intent and that of a clearer negative intent, with the CCDH arguing that it was not possible in many cases to definitely determine the intent of a video, and that even those with a positive intention could be distressing to some, obviously. It's basically going to go on and say how it's poisoned, or it's trying to poison kids' heads, how it's trying to push ideals onto kids, how it's trying to push how most people suffer with mental health problems. The worst thing the internet actually did is it got people to start looking at themselves from the wrong perspective, self-diagnosing. I fell short of that when I was younger as well. And when you can see certain traits within something they're showing and you can resonate with that, you then start to focus on that more and more. Take, for instance, in my case, depression. I looked into bipolar, and then I went on to Facebook, as it was at the time, and you go onto bipolar groups. And what they're trying to do on a lot of these groups is out-misery each other. There's a level of victim status. And each one of them wanted to make out that they were more hard done by, or more distressed, more depressed, more closer to suicide. And some of them will put out statements on there claiming that they were going to do something just to see how many people cared. Who gives a shit? Who wants me to stop? And then they start wallowing in their own pity. And some of them, there are some mental health problems out there where people will make up stuff because they just want the engagement with people. Now, I don't for the life of me understand about bulimia. Obviously, look at me, all right? However, when you start seeing people on social platforms that are dieting themselves down to nothing, and you've already got it in your head that you need to look like that, it's not going to help. And I don't suppose that when you see a negative end to it, that's going to help, because you're then going to have depression as well as, which you probably would have anyway to even be in that state. But the fact that TikTok are pushing this, you have to ask yourself, why? I mean, that's the key question here, isn't it? Why are they trying to fill our kids' heads with this? When really, growing up as a child, before we had all this social media, right? We didn't have any of this as a kid. We had, I'm going out on a bike. The best you could manage was there'd be kids' programs at school, after school when you got home, and Saturday morning and Sunday morning, predominantly Saturday morning, there would be like the kids' programs. You'd watch those, all right? And some of them you'd see some little shites. I mean, Grange Hill, right, back then was perceived to be a bit of a negative input because it talked about drugs. Is it Zamo or whatever it was? And then they brought out this awful, bloody awful tune, Just Say No. God, Christ. I remember that. And then there was Rowley that was fat, and they used to bully him, all right? And that was seen to be negative. And there were a couple of kids that were just very destructive, and they thought that that gave us all the bad idea. That was literally the level then. But kids today, and especially if they're clever and they use VPNs and all sorts of other stuff, can actually get onto the dark web and really mess with their heads. And the video content that you can get nowadays online, we couldn't get it. And I remember there were some kids at school that used to like to watch horror movies and stuff like that, where they drill a killer and things like that. And you're like, why do you want to watch that? I can never get my head around it. But there are people that will be drawn to gore. There are people that are drawn to misery. There are people that are drawn to suffering. I will never get it. But the internet, and now by the look of it, TikTok's pushing a lot of degenerate and negative and depressing and self-harming stuff. And many people have said that TikTok is nothing more than a Chinese psyop to try and destroy our kids, their minds and stuff like that, and just ruin them for the future. But you have to ask yourself, with this going on, is there any credibility to that? Or is that just another conspiracy theory by those on the right? Because TikTok, it's used by left and right. There is a lot of the left on there. Now, if you're doing creative sports, all right, and you're doing mountain biking, you're doing rock climbing and stuff like that, and you want to show videos of it, great. If you fly, what they call it, a drone, and you show lovely footage, brilliant. If you're into any sort of hobby that's positive, bang it on there. But like anything else, there are people that are showing some of the worst and more negative sides of things. Yeah, I think that was another thing that we used to do as kids. We had the Tango advert came out. That wasn't good, because they came around and they slapped the people around the ears. And then all the kids went to school and started slapping the living daylights out of each other, and kids were getting perforated eardrums and stuff like that. So that wasn't good. But trending stuff can actually have an impact on real life. So there it is. So if your kids have got TikTok, you better have a look on there and see exactly what they're watching. Because the chances are they may not be watching something you'd agree with them watching. Just saying. Anyway, have a look for yourself. Make sure that, you know, depending on me, I don't know what age you let your kids look at the internet. I mean, I think they all do nowadays. But there are parental filters. And I don't know how they work on TikTok, incidentally, so you'd have to look into that yourself. But just be a bit aware that it could be pushing some negative stuff towards your kids. All right. Anyway, speaking of negative, I'm out of beer. Oh well, never mind. Right, I'll catch you in a bit anyway.